Hello everyone. So I want to give some tips on presentation files, and I'm going to use the universal joint model as an example. So first I'll just click on New on the Home tab, and this brings me to the default templates, and you'll see at the bottom standard.ipn. Notice none of these templates have inches or millimeters in the file name, so it really depends on how your default templates are set up. So on my system I know this is inches. It could be different on yours. So to be sure, just like with any type of file, you can expand the templates folder, and then you have your English, which had the parentheses inch next to them. So standard inch IPN or metric. So if your model is in millimeters, you'll want to use the standard millimeter IPN. In my case, I'm going to go with English, standard inch, and hit create. I need to browse to the main assembly. So in my case, I have a top level assembly, and I have my subassembly. So I'm going to click the top level or main assembly and open that. And I'm just going to keep it in the default home view. And we've got this timeline down here, which is empty right now, but you can see I'm at 0. And then I have a slider bar I can drag. So I can just hit this button to get to the beginning. And then I'm going to start adding the tweaks, which will allow me to pull this assembly apart. So I click tweak, and then I'm going to take the crank subassembly and move that as one component. So I'm going to set this to component priority, and then click on any one of these three components. It'll select the whole subassembly, and then I can just move this up, figure out a distance. So that looks good. I'm going to OK that. Go back to the home view. And then I can tweak again, set it to parts, and now I can pull the individual components. You can even type a precise value in there, 1.5. To the other one, positive 1.5. So as you're doing this, you can rotate, pan, shift middle mouse button rotate, use the view cube. So you can get access to the parts you need. So as we've been adding these tweaks, they show up in the model browser under a tweaks folder. So I've got these 3 tweaks, and I can always come back in here and change the distance either by typing a number or dragging. But let's play what we have so far. So right now I'm at 7.5 seconds. So I'm going to jump to the beginning and then go to the home view and then just click play. Already we see I'm running into an issue where I kind of want it to start, zoomed in. But if I do that, then, the crankshaft goes off the screen. And I'd rather not zoom out in the beginning and have it be too small to begin with. So as you're adding these tweaks, the zooming that you do doesn't affect the actual animation that we're creating. So we need to capture the camera angle and position and zoom how much it's zoomed in or out. So this is where I want to start. And if I just drag this, I can see that this point, the timeline, put that at the end of the timeline, or I can use this arrow here. I need this to be zoomed out. So I'll set it so everything's exploded at this point in time, and just hit the home button to zoom it to fit, basically. And this is the amount of zoom that I need to see everything. So at this point, I'm going to click Capture Camera. line on the timeline says camera. What this is saying is, I guess it defaults to 2.5 seconds for each of these things. So starting at 5 seconds, it'll go from the current position to this position. So let's just see what that looks like. So it doesn't solve my problem yet because the camera view doesn't start going to that new position until 2.5 seconds before where I set it. So what I want to do is drag this, either move the whole thing or drag the length of it. So let's say it would just play around with it. So immediately it's going off the screen. So what I'm going to do is actually drag this longer. So it's going to start zooming out, and then the end of this camera will be when it's fully zoomed out. So if I'm looking at the tweaks, it needs to be fully zoomed out sooner. So we can just drag this. Let's try lining it up right there. Let's jump to the beginning and just play it. So basically, when the subassembly, by the time that's fully moved 5 inches up, I am fully zoomed out. So we can just leave it like that for now, and then it'll stay in this camera position. Jump to the end. So whenever you're adding a new tweak, you want to make sure you're at the end of your timeline, unless you need to insert something in the middle of the timeline. But usually you want to start where the last tweak ended. All right, so the next thing I want to do is pull out this pin. So I'm going to click tweak and make sure this is set to part, and click on that pin, and let's pull this out. And I think I'll do this one 5, and enter. And then this is the short pin. This one's the long pin. I want to pull out the short pin on the other side. Now, I can still pull it out without being able to see it in the view, but it'd be nice if we temporarily rotate it around, pull the pin out, and then rotate it back. So what I'm going to do is either free rotate to the other side, or I can do a constrained orbit. Be a little bit smoother, so I can grab one of these handles and then just rotate it to the other side. And then when I'm happy with that view, I'm going to capture the camera. I'm going to have to move these cameras around, but at least I've got it locked in this view. And then I can start and end it where I want it to start and end. So I'm going to tweak this piece right now. And we'll do that the same amount for consistency, -5. And then I'm going to rotate it back. Okay, there's the camera. So let's go back to the home view and capture the camera again. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So we just drag it along, and you can see it. The camera starts the rotation as the tweak is starting. So you see the tweak and the camera are both at 7.5 seconds. But maybe I want it to, I don't want it to rotate yet. So I'm going to drag these. It seems like I'm kind of 2.5 seconds off. So maybe there's a better way, but this is how I'm doing it. So I'm just setting the camera that I'm shifting it 2.5 seconds, and then I might adjust it more. All right, so this pin will come out. Once that pin is fully out, the camera starts going to the new position. And then 2.5 seconds, it's in a new position. But I've got this tweak happening at the same time. So as I'm rotating, the pin is coming out. So I want to wait until I can at least see the pin. So this time I'm going to take the tweak and I'm going to drag it maybe 1 second, or what's that, half a second. So let's see what that looks like. This pin comes out, starts rotating. I want to take this even more. See the pin, and it starts coming out. Even drag it more. I guess I could, once it's fully rotated, start dragging it out. Slide this back a little bit, just so it's not too, the word, jittery, or having some overlap kind of make it look a little more smooth. But I don't want to start rotating back until that pin is fully out. So I'm going to take this counter position, drag it to the end of that tweak. Out, start the rotation. Pin comes in, fully comes into view, and then we start pulling it out. But we don't do anything until it's fully out. Once it's fully out, we start rotating back to the default home view. Just using these arrows to make sure I'm lined up right on the end. And now zoom in and out as I need to, just to make it easier to work with. So the zooming I'm doing now is not going to affect my actual animation. Also, I want to save often because there's always a chance that we could crash. I'm just going to save this now. Final project. It's universal joint test. So here's also where I'm going to vary a little bit from what I showed in class. I found some better ways to tweak or explode these parts. So do a new tweak, and we're going to try to take this out more realistically. So I'm going to take the pin, the yoke, and the spider out at the same time. Now it's not a subassembly, but we can use the control key and get multiple parts. So it's set to part, but I can just hold control and I can get multiple parts. If you're having trouble getting access to things, or it's not clicking on the thing you want, you can select it through here. So I've got the spider, yoke, and pin with the control key. And then if I look at the axes, so that is working. So I want to pull this out parallel to this face of the bracket. If your triad isn't oriented like this, if it's oriented to the world system, you can change it here. So we have local, world, and you can actually locate your own axes. So this is the one I actually want right here. But it doesn't happen that way for you, which let me select something in a different order. Let's see how it does. Oops. Go pin. Okay, see how the axes, they might be close to what I want. I'm not sure if it's exactly what I want. So let me make sure I get the right coordinate system. So what I'm going to do, I have the 3 parts I want to pull out at the same time, and I'm going to click locate. When I click locate, you just select a face, and it's going to make the axes face, one of the planes of the coordinate system. And when you're on the face, the green dot, whatever closest vertex you're near, that's going to be the origin, the new origin. So I'll click right there. So now I know this is going to be, in line with this edge. So I've done locate, and I've set up my own triad here, and now I can pull this out. see, let's go to home view. Oh, I made my mistake I told you guys not to make. I'm at the beginning of my timeline. So let me undo that. Okay, I want to be at this point in the timeline. Hit tweak, grab spider, yoke, this pin, Kate, right there. This, I'm gonna pull that out. So about that much. Do this. We'll pull it out a little bit and then go down. So used before that worked. Let's do that and then pull it out and then down. So those same three parts, spider, down. Play it from here. Okay. Now we'll pull out the long pin. Pull the spider out. I'm just going to take that up. And then we'll pull out this yoke, which has to come down. So tweak and pull this down. And kind of go to a side view to see how far that's going. Pretty good. So to get this out without hitting anything, I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to do another tweak. I'm going to change it to, well, once I select it, I'm going to change it from move to rotate. And then rotate it 90 degrees. Another tweak. Change it to move. Change the axis again. So locate. And then just go on this face. I want this face. And I can pull that out. Let's see how that looks from the home view. Okay, that's pretty good. The distances are really easy to change later. You can see them in the model browser. So you don't want to add another tweak and go in the same direction. You want to edit the tweak that's there if you have to change the distance. Okay, so let's rotate this back 90. It's going to be this ring. And okay, so my pin is kind of in the way there, so I can fix that later. Yeah, let's see. Um, too close together. So instead of moving this in, I'm going to move this out. But I kind of like how this is above this because these fit together. So let's move this further down. So I'm going to go in my model browser, find the tweak here, and tweak. It's the wrong one. It's the next one. So the pen. this comes out, and then they go down. Edit. Take this further down. That's good. And then I'll move this one. So it's going to hover. There it is. Rotates. So it's this one here. No, that's the angle. Down. No, just type it in right here. Yeah, that's not bad. I think I liked it the first time I did it, but in terms of the video, it's pretty good. Yeah, so let's take a look at it from the beginning. There. So we gotta look at our camera. So here, back. So we just gotta change this camera. So I'm gonna hit the delete key, and then it's gonna up a little bit. That'll give me more room at the bottom, and then make a new camera. Now let's see, the pin comes out, starts rotating around. I've got some extra space at the bottom now. Okay, you see how I did that? So I kept the camera in the same position, but I just deleted it, panned everything up, and then reset, captured a new. The end of the timeline. I've got everything exploded, and we need to make a drawing view. So if I just click create drawing view, it's going to tell me, well, I have to save for one thing, so let's do that. Let's test. Yes, test. So if we want to make a really simple drawing, just the minimum requirements, I can just go ahead and click create drawing view, and then go to English, and you could use either one of these, it doesn't matter. Difference later, but they're essentially the same for what we're doing. So I'll just choose DWG, hit create. It says no snapshot views exist in the IPN file, and click to automatically add one. If you only need one view, the exploded view, which is what we're looking at here at the end of the timeline, this will create it for you. But let's go back. Let's say you want to do a little extra. So I'm going to go back to here. And if you look on the right-hand side, we have snapshot views, and it's empty. But there is a button here, new snapshot view. So you have the model, the way you want it to look on the drawing, just click new snapshot view, and it'll be called view 1. And let's say I want to place another view, not required, but if you want additional views, you can certainly do that. So a common view you might want to add is just how it looks all assembled. And I'm going to set shaded with edges. I'm not sure that's going to affect the view though, but we'll see. So back on the presentation tab, I want to have a view like this on my drawing. So I have the collapsed and the exploded view. So at the beginning of the timeline, I'll just hit new snapshot view. It'll be called view 2. If you want, you can click on these and put descriptive names, but I'm only going to use 2 views, so I'm not going to bother naming them. I'm going to do a save. And now, when I go to create drawing view, it's going to prompt me for a template. I'm going to do the ANSI inch DWG. Here in the drop-down menu, I have my view 1. And so first I'm going to place the exploded view, called view 1 in this case. And I'm going to try 1:1 scale. And this is a D size sheet. So if you want to, print this out on the plotter in the classroom and hang it up on the wall, you'll want the D size. That's 22 by 34. You could do 11 by 17 if you just want something smaller. But whatever size you choose, it's going to affect your scale. So you just want to put it as big as large as you can on the sheet of paper. So this actually fits really nicely in my case, 1:1 scale. And you can decide if you want hidden lines removed, shaded, or not shaded. So I'm just going to do hidden lines removed, but you can do whatever you want for the display. And I'm just going to drag that around. Give me some room over here. I'm going to do another view. So I'm just going to go to place views and then base view. And this time it's going to be view 2. And that I'm also going to try 1:1. Okay. Oh, did that actually... Actually, maybe I got a big sheet of paper. Maybe I can do 2:1. Yeah, that'll fit. And this time we'll have this one shaded. Okay. So place that there. Got some room over here for my parts list. Got some room around the drawing because I have to put some balloons on there. Okay. So now we go to annotate. So I'm going to double click to zoom to fit. Double click the middle mouse button. And we'll do a save. All right. Always save often. It's going to cause universal joint test. Save. Okay. Okay, the parts list. What you want to do is annotate tab, table panel, click parts list. And we want to set this to structured, which is default. But we want to change the level to all levels. Now this matters in my case because I have multiple levels, that being the subassembly. So you can see how the subcomponents are indented from the subassembly. Levels and select the view. Okay. You have to select the view because in some cases you might have different models on the same drawing sheet. And then we'll just place that anywhere. But it's not showing all the levels. So if you look over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts if we count the pin once, and then 3 more parts. This is not a part, it's a subassembly, so I misspoke there. But I need to show the parts of the subassembly. So just double click your parts list, and then you see this little plus icon. or symbol. We'll just expand that and then go and hit OK, and now it shows them. And the structured all levels gives you an item number for the subassembly, and then these delimited item numbers for the components of the subassembly. So 6.1, 0.2, 0.3. You could call this the major item number and minor item number. But the key thing is they're all item 6 because they all belong to a subassembly. So they're grouped that way. So your descriptions will be blank by default. The part number will be the file name by default, and that's fine. But if you want to fill in the descriptions, not required, but it'd be nice to have a complete table. You can just go in, expand your assembly, and then right-click on each of these parts and go to iProperties. And then the Project tab has your description, and you could type any description in there. I just kept it basically the same as the part number. Exactly the same here, but in some of them, yoke female, I put female yoke. Didn't do the underscore, so crank assembly instead of crank sub. But you get the idea. You could also change this to a numeric number to be more like an actual part number. But this is good for what we need. Mainly, I just want to be able to see the quantities and the names of each part, and they should all have item numbers. Okay, so they have item numbers, so now we need to balloon the item so we know which item number is which component. So balloon is on the table panel. Balloon, and then we just go through and click on each part. So it's 2 clicks and then right click continue. 2 clicks, right click continue. Around to make them look nicer later. But we just want to get them all numbered. I'm not going to do the other short pin because we labeled it once and it's clear they're the same pin. Do the long pin. Spike this piece, the yoke. Okay. Now right click escape. And we can move both the balloon and the arrowhead. So I'm going to put this over here, then dump this there. This on the side. We can kind of hover over another balloon. So alignment, dotted line. Now if you notice, if actually it doesn't, I thought it might go blank, but we want to try to actually attach that on the part. Otherwise, potentially you might lose that item number. Also notice that if it's on the edge, it'll be an arrowhead. If you put it on a face, it changes to a dot. So whatever you think looks better, you can choose that option. Here, I'll try to line this up. Do the edge. And you can even try to keep them somewhat the same angle. Something like this. You know, it's better off if it's here. You can see the arrowhead better. Okay. These up. They don't have to be lined up, but it might look a little nicer. Move this whole thing over a bit. Parts list, if you hover over a piece of the text, you'll get the move icon. You can move the whole thing. So you'll drag the rows. Maybe I'll just put that up here. It could be anywhere. You can dock it to one of the corners. Actually, one more thing about the parts list. If you have a subassembly and you're having trouble getting this um, format with the major minor numbers, it might be because of the balloons. So the balloons might be tied to a different structure. So if you can't get the parts list to come out right, try deleting all of your balloons and then redoing the parts list. Deleting the parts list and all the balloons and then start a new parts list. But if you delete a parts list and redo it when there's balloons existing, you might have some issues. Okay, and then finally, we can fill out some information in the title block. Not required, but it'll make it look nicer. So this is in the iProperties. I'm just going to right click on my drawing in the model browser, go to iProperties, and then the project tab, and wait a minute, summary. So title is on the summary tab, and I'm just going to call it TDD 227 final project, and then we'll jump to the project tab, and then I'm going to fill in revision number and just call it A. So usually A is the first revision, then if you're going to make a change, you make a new drawing as revision B. The same drawing but edited with revision B. Okay, that's good enough. So I'm just going to double click to zoom out and save it. Once the drawing is saved, you're going to go to File, Save As, Pack and Go. And then you will follow the instructions on the final project PDF file that's on Canvas, but here. So you want to do this from the drawing file. So the source file should be your drawing, because the drawing is the top level. So it'll be easy to collect all of the reference parts because everything is referenced by the drawing. If you start with the assembly or something else, you kind of have to search for files differently. So our source file is our drawing. Destination folder is where we're going to save the pack. So the pack and go is actually going to copy all the files. We're duplicating everything into a separate folder. So the folder can't be, or the location can't be the same as the drawing. So I've created a folder called Pack and Go. You could actually call it anything you want, and just browse to it. You could actually go in and right click wherever you want to put it and make new folder, or rather click make new folder here. We're going to skip the libraries, skip styles, skip templates, and then we want to package it as a zip file. And once you have all that set, you're going to click search now. Make sure it finds all the files you expect. Click start. Once the green bar finishes, you can click done. And then if you go into your folder, you'll notice that we have the folder that I had created earlier called Pack and Go now is filled with all of my parts. These are actually new copies that I just created now of all these parts. It also created a project file for me. So I didn't create this, the Pack and Go did it, Universal Joint Test. Same name as the drawing. We've got a copy of the drawing, project file, presentation file, assembly, all the parts. There's a Pack and Go log file. And then if I back a level, we've got the zip file. So the zip file is the same thing as this folder, but a zipped version. So the zip file is what you need to upload to Canvas. This you do not actually need, but it's just something that it creates. So the zip file, so it has everything in it that we just looked at. Submit that. You'll, in class, do the presentation where you'll share your screen, either do a demonstration, show the animation, talk about it, and that'll be about 5 minutes or so. And then, opportunity people might ask you some questions, so be prepared for that. All right, an email if you have any questions, and look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thanks.